Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, right? It's Friday? Yeah, it's not Monday. It's Friday. It's okay. I know what day of the week it is. I can keep track of that sort of thing. I just adjust my microphone here. Yeah, Friday. Hope everyone made it through the week all right. Is anybody actually here yet? Let's see. There's that another TV viewer. We don't know if they are an actual person or just some kind of bot. And I see Farmos. And I see me. Well, hopefully a few more folks will trickle in. We're getting close to the end of the book. So close. Look at that. Are we, Oh, we are under 100 pages. We are on page 308 out of 365. So we're getting real close now. The weather is stormy outside tonight. All day, really. Lots of wind and rain here. So I don't know whether it's going to get loud enough for the microphone to pick that up. I don't think so. No thunder yet. Yeah, not that I've noticed. I love the wall of artwork behind me here. This side. Eagles are not forks. Eagles do not equal forks. There goes the streaming notification. I wonder if that's what actually brings some people in. No Sharkies or Erica yet. Or Kathleen, who joined us last week. It's weird being this close to the end of this book. It's been such a, I don't know, process getting, that doesn't sound right. Adventure getting through it? Maybe that's more accurate. A journey, yes. I am both looking forward to getting to the end of it and starting a new book, and also going to be kind of sad when we do. Oop. I'm going all blurry. I'm out of focus. Yeah. I don't know why. Hello. I'm back here. Well, here's an opportunity to bring up the image for the chapter, and that focused right away. The gathering of clouds. Of the clouds. The gathering of the clouds. Soldiers with their spears facing off against other troops of some kind, and looks like a door off on the one side. Probably need to put that up again when some other people actually get here. It's only 3 minutes past. Hey, there's the Sharkies. Alright, welcome. Oh, you just missed me showing off the artwork for this chapter. And that means that this time it probably... Oh, it's focusing. Look at that. This is the chapter we're going to be reading tonight, The Gathering of the Clouds. Lots of soldiers facing someone else, and a door off the other side there, possibly the front gate. Although it looks a little small for a dragon to pass through, so maybe it's some other passageway. Or maybe it's just very far away. That's more likely, yeah. How has the Sharkies week been? We made it through to Friday. Getting lots of wind and rain where you are. It's quite stormy here. I've got kind of off on this side of me, there's a bit of a skylight in our above our fireplace, and that's always an easy way to tell just how much it's raining outside, is to listen to the sound of it on the skylight. So I can hear it kind of pattering away there. The rain hasn't been like too heavy. It's just been constant here, but we've had a lot of wind this afternoon and evening. Whoosh, says Farmhouse. We were just discussing how close we are to the end of the book. We're less than 100 pages away now. We're on page 308 out of 365. Notice, well, let's see, the Cherokees say busy and extremely wet where they are because they live against the mountains to the northwest. More rain. Oh, yeah, alright. Oh, yeah, and it's a Robot Kyo. Robot Kyo, not rowboat. The sound is echoing. Oh, okay. You getting an echo? Let me turn on the audio for me and see if I hear it. Things might get weird for a second here while I figure this out. Testing, testing. Is audio coming through this headset? Oh yeah, it's echoing for me as well. That's weird. Try and remember how I dealt with this the last time we had this problem. Let me know if either you stop hearing me entirely or if the echo goes. Okay, that definitely just killed the sound. Ah, boy. Can you guys still hear me? It was better for a sec. Alright. What might be causing it? Well, the headset's microphone should be off at this point. I'll move that away. Any change there? You heard me the whole time. You said, oh, can you hear me right now? Is it coming through? You can hear me? Did that kill the echo? No echo now? Oh, okay. Weird. That's really strange because now like my stream setup just says there's no audio going through, but I'm gonna have to troubleshoot this later. Some of the settings got changed around and kind of mucked up the process. But whatever. As long as you can hear me now, that's all that matters. That's not all that matters, but that's all that matters on the sound setting side of things. So how has Robot Kyo's week been? You make it through all right? Doing okay? First week back to school? Congratulations. Bleh. Oh, I hope I don't stumble my way through this chapter. Homework's not bad so far. Any interesting classes, interesting teachers? Are you in person or is it all online? Farmost has also been back to school, mostly actually in person, going back up the hill to classes with other people. I feel like I'm a little out of focus here, but whatever. Good enough. One in person, one online. Both very nice folks. All right. Not bad. And that's not so bad. One class in person kind of gives you a bit of an adjustment period. Get used to being back in person in class. A little bit of time to recharge your social batteries. back in person for the teacher to... I think it's the school's first in-person lessons again. Is Izzy there with you tonight? Hello, if so? Alright, well, it's 10 past, so I think it's probably a good time to get started on the chapter. What do you guys think? I'm not going to wait for an answer, I'm just going to start. Nah. Alright. Chapter 15, The Gathering of the Clouds. It's been a little bit, but now we will return to Bilbo and the dwarves. All night one of them had watched, but when morning came, they had not heard or seen any sign of danger. But ever more thickly the birds were gathering. The companies came flying from the south, and the crows that still lived about the mountain were wheeling and crying unceasingly above. "Something strange is happening," said Thorin. "The time is gone for the autumn wanderings, and these are birds that dwell always in the land. There are starlings and flocks of finches, and far off there are many carrion birds, as if a battle were afoot." Suddenly Bilbo pointed. "There's that old thrush again," he cried. "He seems to have escaped when Smaug smashed the mountainside, but I don't suppose the snails have." Sure enough, the old thrush was there, and as Bilbo pointed, he flew towards them and perched on a stone nearby. Then he fluttered his wings and sang. Then he cocked his head on one side, as if to listen. And again he sang, and again he listened. Varmos mourns for the snails. "I believe he is trying to tell us something," said Balin. "But I cannot follow the speech of such birds. It is very quick and difficult. Can you make it out, Baggins?" "Not very well," said Bilbo. As a matter of fact, he could make nothing of it at all. "But the old fellow seems very excited." "I only wish he was a raven," said Balin. "I thought you did not like them. You seemed very shy of them when we came this way before." "Those were crows, and nasty, suspicious-looking creatures at that, and rude as well. You must have heard the ugly names they were calling after us. But the ravens are different. There used to be great friendship between them and the people of Thror, and they often brought us secret news and were rewarded with such bright things as they coveted to hide in their dwellings. They live many a year, and their memories are long, and they hand on their wisdom to their children. I knew many among the ravens of the rocks when I was a dwarf lad. This very height was once named Ravenhill, because there was a wise and famous pair, old Kark and his wife, that lived here above the card chamber. But I don't suppose that any of that ancient breed linger here now." The Sharkies say Thorin is prejudiced in his corvids. No, this is Balin. No sooner had he finished speaking than the old thrush gave a loud call and immediately flew away. "We may not understand him, but that old bird understands us, I am sure," said Balin. "Keep watch now, and see what happens." Before long, there was a fluttering of wings, and back came the thrush, and with him came a most decrepit old bird. He was getting blind, he could hardly fly, and the top of his head was bald. He was an aged raven of great size. He alighted stiffly on the ground before them, slowly flapped his wings, and bobbed towards Thorin. Let's see. How do I do a very old raven voice for the Raven Speaks? I'm going to try not to strain myself too much with this. "O Thorin, son of Thrain, and Balin, son of Fundin," he croaked, and Bilbo could understand what he said, for he used ordinary language and not bird speech. "I am Roak, son of Kark. Kark is dead, but he was well known to you once. It is 100 years and 350 since I came out of the egg. But I do not forget what my father told me. Now I am the chief of the great ravens of the mountain. We are few, but we remember still the old king that was of old. Most of my people are abroad, for there are great tidings in the south. Some are tidings of joy to you, and some you will not think so good. Let's take a second here. 100 years and 350 since he came out of the egg. So I suppose that's 153? It's kind of a strange arrangement of numbers. 103 and 50. So I think this raven is 153 years old. Farmouse agrees. Behold! The birds are gathering back again to the mountain, and to dale from south and east and west, for word has gone out that Smaug is dead. Dead? Dead? Shouted the dwarves. Dead? Then we have been in needless fear, and the treasure is ours. They all sprang up and began to caper about for joy. Yes, dead, said Roak. The thrush, may his feathers never fall, saw him die, and we may trust his words. He saw him fall in battle with the men of Esgaroth, the third night back from now at the rising of the moon. It was some time before Thorin could bring the dwarves to be silent and listen to the raven's news. At length, when he had told all the tale of the battle, he went on. So much for joy, Thorin Oakenshield. You may go back to your halls in safety. All the treasure is yours, for the moment. But many are gathering hither beside the birds. The news of the death of the Guardian has already gone far and wide, and the legend of the wealth of Thror has not lost in the telling during many years. Many are eager for a share of the spoil. Already a host of the Elves is on the way, and carrion birds are with them, hoping for battle and slaughter. By the lake, men murmur that their sorrows are due to the dwarves, for they are homeless, and many have died, and Smaug has destroyed their town. They too think to find amends from your treasure, whether you are alive or dead. Your own wisdom must decide your course, but 13 is small remnant of the great folk of Durin that once dwelt here, and now are scattered far. If you will listen to my counsel, you will not trust the master of the lake men, but rather him that shot the dragon with his bow. Bard is he, of the race of Dale, of the line of Girion. He is a grim man, but true. We would see peace once more among dwarves, and men, and elves, after the long desolation, but it may cost you dear in gold. I have spoken. That line's familiar to me. Then Thorin burst forth in anger. Our thanks, Roak, Kark's son. You and your people shall not be forgotten. But none of our gold shall thieves take, or the violent carry off while we are alive. If you would earn our thanks still more, bring us news of any that draw near. Also, I would beg of you, if any of you are still young and strong of wing, that you would send messengers to our kin in the mountains of the north, both west from here and east, and tell them of our plight. But go specially to my cousin Dane in the Iron Hills, for he has many people well armed, and dwells nearest to this place. Bid him hasten. I will not say if this counsel be good or bad, croaked Roak. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. It's what I've chosen anyways. But I will do what can be done. Then off he slowly flew. What's happening here? Robot Kyo says it's like Roman numerals, but in English. The Sharkies, 4 and 20 blackbirds. Sharkies say Esgaroth was the name of the city of the snails next to the secret door. Oh, Escargoth. Escargoth, yes. Or Escargoth. Escargoth was the snail city. Farmhouse Esgaroth next to the even more splendid Escargoth. That's... oh boy. "Back now to the mountain!" cried Thorin. "We have little time to lose." "And little food to use!" cried Bilbo, always practical on such points. What a nerd. Oh, I hear squeaking from the other room at that one. Or name for the snails that were all black. Yes, nice. Robot Kyo. In any case, he felt that the adventure was, properly speaking, over with the death of the dragon, in which he was much mistaken, and he would have given most of his share of the profits for the peaceful winding up of these affairs. "Back to the mountain!" cried the dwarves, as if they had not heard him. So back he had to go with them. As you have heard some of the events already, you will see that the dwarves still had some days before them. They explored the caverns once more, and found, as they expected, that only the front gate remained open. All the other gates, except of course the small secret door, had long ago been broken and blocked by Smaug, and no sign of them remained. So now they began to labor hard in fortifying the main entrance, and in making a new path that led from it. Tools were to be found in plenty that the miners and quarriers and builders of old had used, and at such work the dwarves were still very skilled. As they worked, the ravens brought them constant tidings. In this way they learnt that the Elven King had turned aside to the lake, and they still had a breathing space. Better still, they heard that 3 of their ponies had escaped. Oh, that's nice. And were wandering wild far down the banks of the running river, not far from where the rest of their stores had been left. So, while the others went on with their work, Fili and Kili were sent, guided by a raven, to find the ponies and bring back all they could. Of course, Farmo says, "Yay, ponies!" Sharkies want a t-shirt with a goth snail. Robot Kyo agrees. Escargoth. I know some artist friends. I'll talk to them. Although, assuming that idea hasn't already been done. Sharkies bet that was Tolkien trying to cheer up his sad kids who kept worrying about the ponies. Farmo says, already found an Escargoth t-shirt. Alright, well that holds up. That's, I suppose, somewhat of a kind of an obvious pun. I mean, on the one hand, I could see this being Tolkien trying to cheer up his kid with the ponies, but on the other hand, I think this could be Tolkien trying to stop his party of heroes from starving to death. They were 4 days gone, and by the time they knew that the joined armies of the Lakemen and the Elves were hurrying... I emphasized things wrong. Let me start over. They were 4 days gone, and by that time they knew that the joined armies of the Lakemen and the Elves were hurrying towards the mountain. But now their hopes were higher, for they had food for some weeks with care, chiefly cram, of course, and they were very tired of it. But cram is much better than nothing. The return of cram. I thought we might have been done with cram by this point. Cram. Cram, 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 lovely cram. Eggs, bacon, and cram. Beans and cram. Cram, 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 and cram with a side of cram. Hey, Farmos. Cram, param. All right. And already the gate was blocked with a wall of squared stones laid dry, but very thick and high across the opening. Gotta stop laughing about cram. There were holes in the wall through which they could see or shoot, but no entrance. They climbed in or out with ladders, and hauled stuff up with ropes. For the issuing of the stream, they had contrived a small low arch over under the new wall, but near the entrance they had so altered the narrow bed that a wide pool stretched from the mountain wall to the head of the fall over which the stream went towards Dale. Approach to the gate was now only possible, without swimming, along a narrow ledge of the cliff, to the right as one looked outwards from the wall. The ponies they had brought only to the head of the steps above the old bridge, and unloading them there, had bidden them to return to their masters and sent them back riderless to the south. Seems a little cold. There came a night when suddenly there were many lights as of fires and torches away south in Dale before them. "They have come," called Balin, "and their camp is very great. They must have come into the valley under the cover of dusk along both banks of the river." That night the dwarves slept little. The morning was still pale when they saw a company approaching. From behind their wall they watched them come up to the valley's head and climb slowly up. Before long they could see that both men of the lake, armed as if for war, and elvish bowmen were among them. At length the foremost of these climbed the tumbled rocks and appeared at the top of the falls, and very great was their surprise to see the pool before them and the gate blocked with a wall of new-hewn stone. As they stood pointing and speaking to one another, Thorin hailed them. "Who are you," he called in a very loud voice, "that come as if in war to the gates of Thorin, son of Thrain, king under the mountain? And what do you desire?" But they answered nothing. Some turned swiftly back, and the others, after gazing for a while at the gate and its defenses, soon followed them. That day the camp was moved to the east of the river, right between the arms of the mountain. The rocks echoed then with voices and with song, as they had not done for many a day. There was the sound, too, of elven harps and of sweet music, and it echoed up towards them, and as it echoed up towards them, it seemed that the chill of the air was warmed, and they caught faintly the fragrance of woodland flowers blossoming in spring. Then Bilbo longed to escape from the dark fortress, and to go down and join in the mirth and feasting by the fires. Some of the younger dwarves were moved in their hearts too, and they muttered that they wished things had fallen out otherwise, and that they might welcome such folk as friends. But Thorin scowled. Then the dwarves themselves brought forth harps and instruments regained from the hoard, and made music to soften his mood. But their song was not an elvish song, and was much like the song they had sung long before in Bilbo's little hobbit hole. Before I get to that, let's see what people are saying. Sharkies say, the ponies seem to do better without the dwarves than with. Barnamos replies, yeah, ponies don't go chasing dragons by themselves. Has a clear setup for the Sharkies to reply, don't go chasing dragon hordes. Stick to the nice hobbit hole that you're used to. Clear setup. Alright, now that my voice is warmed up for singing, let's see how I can do. Luckily, it's a dwarvish song, so it's, to me, a little more like a chant. Under the mountain dark and tall, the king has come unto his hall. His foe is dead, the worm of dread, and ever so his foes shall fall. The sword is sharp, the spear is long, the arrow swift, the gate is strong. The heart is bold that looks on gold, the dwarves no more shall suffer wrong. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells, in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. On silver necklaces they strung the light of stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire from twisted wire, the melody of harps they rung. The mountain throne once more is freed. O wandering folk, the summons heed. Come haste, across the waste. The king of friend and kin has need. Now call we over mountains cold. Come back unto the caverns old. Here at the gates the king awaits. His hands are rich with gems and gold. The king is come unto his hall, under the mountain dark and tall. The worm of dread is slain and dead, and ever so our foes shall fall. Not my best work. This song appeared to please Thorin, and he smiled again and grew merry. And he began reckoning the distance to the iron hills, and how long it would be before Dane could reach the lonely mountain, if he had set out as soon as the message reached him. But Bilbo's heart fell, both at the song and the talk. They sounded much too warlike. The next morning, early, a company of spearmen was seen crossing the river and marching up the valley. They bore with them the green banner of the Elven King and the blue banner of the lake, and they advanced until they stood right before the wall at the gate. Again Thorin hailed them in a loud voice. "Who are you that come armed for war to the gates of Thorin, son of Thrain, king under the mountain?" This time he was answered. Farmo says it's almost a bit of a taunt. Yeah, definitely. Especially considering that they're not exactly the ones that slew the dragon. They kind of seem to be taking an awful lot of credit for that, while also yelling out, like singing out, "Hey, look how rich we are! Look at all the money and gems we have!" Oh, dwarves. A tall man stood forward, dark of hair and grim of face. I wonder who this could be. And he cried, "Hail, Thorin! Why do you fence yourself like a robber in his hold? We are not yet foes, and we rejoice that you are alive beyond our hope. We came expecting to find none living here, yet now that we are met, there is a matter for a parley and a council." "Who are you, and of what would you parley?" "I am Bard, and by my hand was the dragon slain, and your treasure delivered. Is that not a matter that concerns you? Moreover, I am by right descent, the heir of Girion of Dale, and in your hoard is mingled much of the wealth of his halls and town, which old Smaug stole. Is not that a matter of which we may speak? Further, in his last battle, Smaug destroyed the dwellings of the men of Esgaroth, and I am yet the servant of their master. I would speak for him, and ask whether you have no thought for the sorrow and misery of his people. They aided you in your distress, and in recompense you have thus far brought ruin only, though doubtless undesigned." At least he admits that it was probably not on purpose. Sharky say, "He's grim," says Tolkien. "He's grim, man." Yeah. Anytime a man in this book is described as grim, it's Bard. Even if it wasn't Bard before, once he's described as grim, it's Bard. And destroyed the whole of Escargoth. Oh no. That's true. They owe great recompense to the snails of Escargoth. Oh, I missed Pharmos saying, "You guys can't get in, and we have the gold, and we're calling our dudes to us." Yep, yep. Just announce their whole plan through the medium of song. Now, these were fair words and true, if proudly and grimly spoken. You hear that? They were grim. Must have been Bard. And Bilbo thought that Thorin would at once admit what justice was in them. He did not, of course, expect that anyone would remember that it was he who discovered all by himself the dragon's weak spot, and that was just as well, for no one ever did. But also, he did not reckon with the power that gold has upon which a dragon has long brooded, nor with dwarvish hearts. Long hours in the past days Thorin had spent in the treasury, and the lust of it was heavy on him. Though he had hunted chiefly for the Arkenstone, yet he had an eye for many another wonderful thing that was lying there, about which were wound old memories of the labors and the sorrows of his race. "You put your worst cause last and in the chief place," Thorin answered. "To the treasure of my people no man has a claim, because Smaug, who stole it from us, also robbed him of life or home. The treasure was not his that his evil deeds should be amended with a share of it. The price of the goods and the assistance that we received of the Lakemen we will fairly pay, in due time. But nothing will we give, not even a loaf's worth, under threat of force. While an armed host lies before our doors, we look on you as foes and thieves." "It is in my mind to ask what share of their inheritance you would have paid to our kindred, had you found the hoard unguarded and us slain." "A just question," replied Bard. "But you are not dead, and we are not robbers. Moreover, the wealthy may have pity beyond right on the needy that befriended them when they were in want, and still my other claims remain unanswered. I will not parley, as I have said, with armed men at my gate, nor at all with the people of the Elven King, whom I remember with small kindness. In this debate they have no place. Begone now, ere our arrows fly. And if you would speak with me again, first dismiss the elvish host to the woods where it belongs, and then return, laying down your arms before you approach the threshold." "The Elven King is my friend, and he has succored the people of the lake in their need, though they had no claim but friendship on him," answered Bard. "We will give you time to repent your words. Gather your wisdom ere we return." Then he departed and went back to the camp. Ere many hours were past, the banner-bearers returned, and trumpeters stood forth and blew a blast. "In the name of Esgaroth and the forest," one cried, "we speak unto Thorin, Thrain's son, Oakenshield, calling himself the king under the mountain, and we bid him consider well the claims that have been urged, or be declared our foe. At the least he shall deliver 1/12th portion of the treasure unto Bard, as the Dragonslayer, and as the heir of Girion. From that portion Bard will himself contribute to the aid of Esgaroth. But if Thorin would have the friendship and honor of the lands about, as his sires had of old, then he will give also somewhat of his own for the comfort of the men of the lake." Then Thorin seized a bow of horn and shot an arrow at the speaker. It smote into his shield and stuck there quivering. "Since such is your answer," he called in return, "I declare the mountain besieged. You shall not depart from it until you call on your side for a truce and a parley. We will bear no weapons against you, but we leave you to your gold. You may eat that if you will." With that, the messengers departed swiftly, and the dwarves were left to consider their case. So grim had Thorin become that even if they had wished, the others would not have dared to find fault with him. But indeed, most of them seemed to share his mind, except, perhaps, old Fat Bomber and Feely and Keely. Bilbo, of course, disapproved of the whole turn of affairs. He had by now had more than enough of the mountain, and being besieged inside it was not at all to his taste. "The whole place still stinks of dragon," he grumbled to himself, "and it makes me sick. And cram is beginning to simply to stick in my throat." Bilbo is sick of cram. And that is the end of chapter 15, The Gathering of the Clouds. Sharkies says, "Thorin reminds me of the guy who buys lottery tickets with his coworkers, but once he wins, no, this one's the ticket bought by myself." Oh, yeah. Somewhat. I mean, he's still willing to share with everyone in the, like, the rest of the dwarves and Bilbo. But, I don't know. I can see kind of both sides of things here. Parts of both sides. I feel like both sides are partially right and partially wrong. I do think the dwarves definitely need to be somewhat generous with the men of Lake Town who suffered because of the dragon. But I don't think they're wrong about the elves. I mean, the last time they encountered the elves of the wood, they were locked up in cells and not released. They had to escape by themselves. So I do think it's only fair to send the elves away entirely. Just because the elves helped the men of Lake Town doesn't mean that the dwarves owe the elves anything, I think. And also, I can understand sort of the point of you're asking us to be generous with you while you're pointing weapons at us, while you've got an army with you, is not the friendliest way of going about negotiations. Yeah, Farmos says the men of the lake might owe the elves, but Thorin doesn't necessarily. I don't think Thorin does at all. So in this case, I would say Thorin owes the men of the lake and should pay them. And then if the men of the lake want to pay the elves, that's their business. But then again, I could also see, we're going to pay you, but I don't want our gold going to the elves because they're our enemies. Although they do kind of frame it in this book, I feel like, that the elves locked up the dwarves, and the dwarves didn't like that, but they don't necessarily always frame it as being complete hostility in that regard. Farmos kind of feels like Thorin might be using the weapons being there as an excuse not to talk with them and actually give them anything. Yeah, that is definitely another side of things where Thorin clearly wants to keep all the gold for his own party. And so even if they had come without weapons, he might have found another excuse not to give them anything. But I do think, having hosts of spearmen coming up towards the mountain is not the friendliest way to start a conversation. I don't know. It's definitely complicated. But also, Thorin has, at this point, immediately declared himself king under the mountain and is not even discussing with his companions what they should do. He's just making all the decisions himself. And I think that's not great either. Even if it does kind of sound like most of the dwarves agree with him. Parma says, or she at least feels like he's like, we'll give you what we feel like giving you, but we're not open to negotiations about it. Yes, he definitely is like, we'll pay what's due eventually once you get out of here and, aren't being jerks about it. Not a particularly skilled diplomat. The Sharkies say Tolkien does say that Thorin was becoming entranced by the treasure. Maybe he would have been more generous otherwise. Yeah, that is definitely another part of it. they didn't make any promises really to the men of Lake Town before they left to get the treasure, and that was probably a mistake if they had worked some of this out ahead of time. But they couldn't have known what was going to happen with Smaug either. They couldn't have known ahead of time that Smaug was going to go destroy Lake Town, and that Bard was going to slay the dragon. And I do feel like that has, they've admitted themselves that was always a weak point in their plan. They've got this treasure on their treasure. They've got this dragon on their treasure in the mountain, and their only plan was to get to the mountain. They had no plan for how to deal with the dragon. And so then they piss off the dragon, excuse my language, who flies off and burns down Lake Town and kills many of them, and many more of them will die from illness. And I do think they probably kind of owe the people of Lake Town for that. So, again, there are rights and wrongs on both sides, I think. And definitely, I think, probably the dwarves are maybe a little more in the wrong in this situation, in that they should offer up some of their wealth. But I also don't know that that would even appease the men of Lake Town and the elves. If they did that, it's entirely possible that the greed, the lust after treasure would come over them, and they would try and take the rest of it anyways. Especially since they said, you've got to give 1/12 to the men, to Bard, and he will give of that to the men of Lake Town. And there was no mention there of the elves, right? So what if Thorin gives up 1/12 of the hoard, which is more than they were already dividing it up? Each member of the party was originally going to get 1/14. The men of Lake Town want more than that share. So yeah, let's say he gives them 1/12, and then the elves go, well, what about us? We want our treasure, which I don't see that the elves really have any right to. Farmo says the lake men were like, these are our terms, and it's a pretty big amount. Yeah, 1/12 of the entire treasure in the mountain is not a small amount when you consider how much treasure is there, and that the dwarves are going to need this treasure to rebuild their kingdom, right? Because it's not like these 13 dwarves are going to live there all by themselves. I imagine they're planning on bringing in more people, more dwarves, to live in the mountain again. And in that case, they're going to need to buy food and things like that. These people need to have a longer view of things. That treasure is going to come out of the mountain, at least some of it, to buy supplies and such, but I suppose that is maybe a little too far away to help the people that are currently homeless. Definitely a downside to having all of your houses built out on the water is, the whole place gets destroyed, and now you don't even have ruins to live in. Well, it is only 7:45 right now. That was a bit of a shorter chapter. See, Farmo says, well, and if there is a treasure that used to belong to the lake men, how are they going to vet that? Just be like, Bard, tell us which stuff is yours. Yeah, and Bard is a descendant of the men of Dale. He probably has never seen which treasures were originally theirs. The Sharkies, they also seems like mighty big words from Thorin, that his whole claim is because of who his ancestors are. But when Bard was like, I'm descended from people who once owned some of this stolen gold, Thorin was like, well, they're dead. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. Is that how did that go exactly? That does kind of sound like how that went, but see, they aided you in your distress. To the treasure of my people no man has a claim, because Smaug, who stole it from us, also robbed him of life or home. The treasure was not his, that his evil deeds should be amended with a share of it, the price of the goods, and the assistance that we received. Whoop. Benedict. Hey. What? What's going on? I don't know what's happening down there. Well, anyways, I think Thorin just kind of doesn't address that point. The part he talks about is that the men of Lake Town helped the dwarves, and in return, the dragon came and burnt down their homes. And so Thorin says, that doesn't count because the dragon originally stole our house entirely and all our treasure, so, nobody else gets a claim to our treasure except for us. But as Bard says, and still my other claims remain unanswered, because Thorin just doesn't even talk about the idea that some of the treasure might have come from outside the mountain. But that is a tricky part, How do you deal with that? Like, not all of this treasure is yours. Well, says who? How can you prove that? I don't know. That's difficult. This whole situation is very tricky. All right, let's see. The next chapter. Chapter 16, A Thief in the Night. Let's see how long that is. Oh, the next chapter is very long, or very short. It's only 8 pages. So why don't we get through that, and then we'll call it there. I think we have time for that. Let's see if this will focus. Always later in the stream, once the light has changed, it doesn't want to focus on these images. Yeah, this one's pretty tough to see, even, I think, anyway. So I'll just describe this one. We have some soldiers in the foreground and a camp in the back. The ones in the foreground are wearing some scale mail and carrying shields, and maybe one's got a sword and one's got a spear. It's kind of hard to make out. And then just a camp with fires in the background in the night. Resource management, yeah. All right. So yeah, let's burn through one more chapter. Have a quick drink before that. All right, chapter 16, A Thief in the Night. Now the days passed slowly and wearily. Hearing some noise outside. I don't know if that's coming through the speaker or the microphone. Many of the dwarves spent their time piling and ordering the treasure, and Thorin spoke of the Arkenstone of Thrain and bade them eagerly to look for it in every corner. For the Arkenstone of my father, he said, is worth more than a river of gold itself, and to me it is beyond price. I'm going to mute the microphone for a moment. Okay, never mind. All good. Sorry. Let me start that sentence over. For the Arkenstone of my father, he said, is worth more than a river of gold itself, and to me it is beyond price. That stone of all the treasure I name unto myself, and I will be avenged on anyone who finds it and withholds it. Well, tricky. Sharky say the exact phrase, a thief in the night, is a biblical reference. It could be that Tolkien is saying that Bilbo is everyone's salvation. Is that how it pans out? I don't remember it going quite that way in this case, but let's find out. Bilbo heard these words, and he grew afraid, wondering what would happen if the stone was found, wrapped in an old bundle of tattered oddments that he used as a pillow. All the same, he did not speak of it. For as the weariness... I guess I do remember something that happens here, right? For as the weariness of the days grew heavier, the beginnings of a plan had come into his little head. Things had gone on like this for some time, when the ravens brought news that Dane and more than 500 dwarves, hurrying from the Iron Hills,
were now within about 2 days' march of Dale, coming from the northeast. More than 500 dwarves.
"But they cannot reach the mountain unmarked," said Roak, "and I fear lest there be battle in the valley. I do not call this counsel good. Though they are a grim folk, they are not likely to overcome—"
A grim folk, is that Bard?
"They are not likely to overcome the host that besets you. And even if they did so, what will you gain? Winter and snow is hastening behind them. How shall you be fed without the friendship and goodwill of the lands about you? The treasure is likely to be your death, though the dragon is no more."
Farmel says, "Bilbo, you better go put it back somewhere." Oop, it's Bard. Bards. 500 bards. That night, Bilbo made up his mind. The sky was black and moonless. As soon as it was full dark, he went to a corner of an inner chamber just within the gate, and drew from his bundle a rope, and also the Arkenstone, wrapped in a rag. Then he climbed to the top of the wall. Only Bombur was there, for it was his turn to watch, and the dwarves kept only one watchman at a time. "It is mighty cold," said Bombur. "I wish we could have a fire up here as they have in the camp." "It is warm enough inside," said Bilbo. I dare say, but I am bound here till midnight," grumbled the fat dwarf. "A sorry business altogether. Not that I venture to disagree with Thorin, may his beard grow ever longer. Yet he was ever a dwarf with a stiff neck." "Not as stiff as my legs," said Bilbo. "I am tired of stairs and stone passages. I would give a good deal for the feel of grass at my toes." "I would give a good deal for the feel of a strong drink in my throat, and for a soft bed after a good supper." "I can't give you those while the siege is going on, but it is long since I watched, and I will take your turn for you, if you like. There is no sleep in me tonight." "You are a good fellow, Mr. Baggins, and I will take your offer kindly. If there should be anything to note, rouse me first, mind you. I will lie in the inner chamber to the left, not far away." "Off you go," said Bilbo. "I will wake you at midnight, and you can wake the next watchman." Oh boy, Bilbo. As soon as Bombur had gone, Bilbo put on his ring, fastened his rope, slipped down over the wall, and was gone. He had about 5 hours before him. Bombur would sleep. He could sleep at any time, and ever since the adventure in the forest, he was always trying to recapture the beautiful dreams he had then. And all the others were busy with Thorin. It was unlikely that any, even Fili or Kili, would come out on the wall until it was their turn. It was very dark, and the road after a while, when he left the newly made path and climbed down towards the lower course of the stream, was strange to him. At last he came to the bend where he had to cross the water, if he was to make for the camp as he wished. The bed of the stream was there shallow but already broad, and fording it in the dark was not easy for the little hobbit. He was nearly across when he missed his footing on a round stone and fell into the cold water with a splash. He had barely scrambled out on the far bank, shivering and spluttering, when up came elves in the gloom, with bright lanterns, and searched for the cause of the noise. "That was no fish," one said. "There is a spy about. Hide your lights. They will help him more than us, if it is that queer little creature that is said to be their servant." "Servant indeed," snorted Bilbo, and in the middle of the snort he sneezed loudly, and the elves immediately gathered towards the sound. "Let's have a light," he said. "I am here if you want me." And he slipped off his ring and popped from behind a rock. They seized him quickly, in spite of their surprise. "Who are you? Are you the dwarves' Hobbit? What are you doing? How did you get so far past our sentinels?" they asked one after another. Sharkies say he could sleep, it's all right for him. Parmo says rude.
I am Mr. Bilbo Baggins, he answered, companion of Thorin, if you want to know. I know your king well by sight, though perhaps he doesn't know me to look at. But Bard will remember me, and it is Bard I particularly want to see. Indeed, said they, and what may be your business? Whatever it is, it's my own, my good elves. But if you wish to ever to get back to your own woods from this cold, cheerless place, he answered, shivering, you will take me along quick to a fire where I can dry, and then you will let me speak to your chiefs as quick as may be. I have only an hour or two to spare. That is how it came about that some 2 hours after his escape from the gate, Bilbo was sitting beside a warm fire in front of a large tent, and there sat two, gazing curiously at him, both the Elven King and Bard. A hobbit in elvish armor, partly wrapped in an old blanket, was something new to them. Really, you know, Bilbo was saying in his best business manner, things are impossible. Personally, I am tired of the whole affair. I wish I was back in the West in my own home, where folk are more reasonable. But I have an interest in this matter, 1/14th share to be precise, according to a letter, which fortunately I believe I have kept. He drew from a pocket in his old jacket, which he still wore over his mail, crumpled and much folded, Thorin's letter that had been put under the clock on his mantelpiece in May. A share in the profits, mind you, he went on. I am aware of that. Personally, I am only too ready to consider all your claims carefully, and deduct what is right from the total before putting in my own claim. However, you don't know Thorin Oakenshield as well as I do now. I assure you, he is quite ready to sit on a heap of gold and starve, as long as you sit here. Well, let him, said Bard. Such a fool deserves to starve. Quite so, said Bilbo. I see your point of view. At the same time, winter is coming on fast. Before long, you will be having snow and whatnot, and supplies will be difficult, even for elves, I imagine. Also, there will be other difficulties. You have not heard of Dane and the dwarves of the Iron Hills? We have, a long time ago. But what has he got to do with us? Asked the king. I thought as much. I see I have some information you have not got. Dane, I may tell you, is now less than 2 days' march off, and he has at least 500 grim dwarves with him. A good many of them have had experience in the dreadful dwarf and goblin wars, of which you have no doubt heard. When they arrive, there may be serious trouble. Why do you tell us this? Are you betraying your friends, or are you threatening us? Asked Bard grimly. My dear Bard, squeaked Bilbo, don't be so hasty. I never met such suspicious folk. I am merely trying to avoid trouble for all concerned. Now, I will make you an offer. Let us hear it, they said. You may see it, said he. It is this. And he drew forth the Arkenstone and threw away the wrapping. Risky. The Elven King himself, whose eyes were used to things of wonder and beauty, stood up in amazement. Even Bard gazed marveling at it in silence. It was as if a globe had been filled with moonlight and hung before them in a net woven of the glint of frosty stars. This is the Arkenstone of Thrain, said Bilbo, the heart of the mountain, and it is also the heart of Thorin. He values it above a river of gold. I give it to you. It will aid you in your bargaining. Then Bilbo, not without a shudder, not without a glance of longing, handed the marvelous stone to Bard, and he held it in his hand, as though dazed. But How is it yours to give? He asked at last with an effort.
Oh, well, said the hobbit uncomfortably. It isn't exactly. But, well, I am willing to let it stand against all my claim, don't you know. I may be a burglar, or so they say. Personally, I never really felt like one. But I am an honest one, I hope, more or less. Anyway, I am going back now, and the dwarves can do what they like to me. I hope you will find it useful. The Elven King looked at Bilbo with a new wonder. Bilbo Baggins, he said, you are more worthy to wear the armor of elf princes than many that have looked more comely in it. But I wonder if Thorin Oakenshield will see it so. I have more knowledge of dwarves in general than you have, perhaps. I advise you to remain with us, and here you shall be honored and thrice welcome. Thank you very much, I am sure, said Bilbo with a bow, but I don't think I ought to leave my friends like this, after all we have gone through together. And I promised to wake old Bombur at midnight, too. Really, I must be going, and quickly. Nothing they could say would stop him, so an escort was provided for him, and as he went, both the king and bard saluted him with honor. As they passed through the camp, an old man, wrapped in a dark cloak, rose from a tent door where he was sitting, and came towards them. Here's a voice I haven't done for a while.
Well done, Mr. Baggins!
I don't know if that's quite right. He said, clapping Bilbo on the back.
There is always more about you than anyone expects.
It was Gandalf. For the first time, for many a day, Bilbo was really delighted. But there was no time for all the questions that he immediately wished to ask.
All in good time, said Gandalf. Things are drawing towards the end now, unless I am mistaken. There is an unpleasant time just in front of you, but keep your heart up. You may come through all right. There is news brewing that even the ravens have not heard. Good night.
Puzzled, but cheered, Bilbo hurried on. He was guided to a safe ford and set across dry, and then he said farewell to the elves and climbed carefully back towards the gate. Great weariness began to come over him, but it was well before midnight when he clambered up the rope again. It was still where he had left it. He untied it and hid it, and then he sat down on the wall and wondered anxiously what would happen next. At midnight he woke up Bombur, and then in turn rolled himself up in his corner, without listening to the old dwarf's thanks, which he felt he had hardly earned. He was soon fast asleep, forgetting all his worries till the morning. As a matter of fact, he was dreaming of eggs and bacon. And that's the end of chapter 16. We made it through 2 whole chapters tonight. And it's only 8:08, so I think we made good time. Chapter 17 is called The Clouds Burst. 2 chapters ago we had The Gathering of Clouds. So this is definitely related. And yes, Sharky's assessment of Bilbo possibly being everyone's salvation, that may have been more accurate than I gave you credit for. I'm sorry for dismissing it. I won't show the next chapter image just yet because it's the lights off, I guess, for focus, but see what I feel like I've missed a lot of chat. Pharma says, "Oh Bilbo, no, oh dear." Oh hey, Erica made it for the end of the chapter. Erica saying it's not over. Hey, welcome. Sharkies say Bilbo's visit to their camp reminds me of a moment in Critical Role. I started trying to watch Critical Role at one point, but I have trouble not doing things from the beginning, and I felt like the audio at the beginning of that was not very good, and it was kind of tough to listen to. And I've just never really also done much in the way of podcasts, which is funny because this, I think, is very close to being a podcast itself, but I've just never really gotten into podcasts. Although Farmos and our friend who is visiting and I started watching a show on the Stars side of Disney Plus last night called Only Murderers in the Building, or something like that, which is starring Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez, and it's about their three characters who all live in the same building, and they all meet each other and discover that they're all fans of the same true crime podcast. It's been very entertaining. I would recommend it. It is still coming out, I think, one episode a week. But it's very both funny and also has a lot of intrigue and mystery in it. So I'd say it's worth watching. All right. That was quite the aside. Farmo says, "Oh no, oh, who could that be?" I assume referring to Gandalf. Sharkies, that was my favorite moment when I read that to the kids. Mia? Oh, Mia's reaction was priceless. Oh, you mean when Gandalf appears? Mia was excited? We gained an Ericer. Sharkies, this theology degree has to count for something. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm wrong. Ericer apologizes for missing almost the entire thing. And you weren't here on Monday. Have you started your new shift already, or was something else going on? That's okay. We are getting very, very close to the end. Counting down the pages, we are now on page 329 out of 365. Yeah, so I'll have to definitely do a little bit of a recap before the next stream. Sharkies agree that audio in the beginning of Critical Role sucked, but there are options to watch that work better. Okay. Farmos agrees that Only Murders in the Building has been great so far. Only Murders, not Murderers. Mia was more excited about Darth Vader in A New Hope, though. Darth Vader is pretty exciting. I can't fault that. Ericer did Clay on Monday since their schedule changed back to normal hours. Can't go on weekday mornings anymore. Okay, that's fair. So yeah, getting close. Getting very close to the end. And interesting things afoot. And this, I feel like, was a very large gamble on Bilbo's part of taking the Arkenstone, which Thorin had already at that point claimed for himself. And stealing it out and giving it away to the people that at this point Thorin views as his enemies. And counting on that somehow bringing a resolution to things that, I don't know, that's a big risk, I think. Farmos has been lauding the clay things you've made to our house guest. Yes, that's correct. Ericer's new hours start in 2 days, so she will miss Monday since she works then. Oh, Farmos. Sharky say Bilbo is risking his share of anything by leaving and giving away the Arkenstone. I feel like Bilbo is risking his life by doing that. He is counting on all of the goodwill he has earned up to this point in him keeping his head, I think. Not to mention his share of the treasure. Because, I don't know. That is, very risky. But, I don't know. Good for him for going back to the dwarves afterwards, because they would have completely viewed him as nothing more than a traitor if he had stayed with the men and the elves, I think. So, things are getting tense. As it said, the clouds are gathering. So now we've got the dwarves in the mountain, the Danes' dwarves outside the mountain. We've got the elves and the men of Laketown are all gathered. Well, the dwarves outside the mountain aren't quite gathered yet, but they will be in 2 days. Things are coming to a head. I don't know. So, I don't know how many chapters do we have left exactly. I know how many pages. So we're on chapter 17, and there are doesn't want to give me the one. Am I missing a page in this book? No? There it is. There are 19 chapters. So, yeah. I don't know. honestly, we could maybe just push through, do a maybe slightly longer stream. I don't know that it would be much longer, and finish the book on Friday. Could happen. I mean, that's quite a lot of pages, isn't it? Going from page 329 to 365. 40 something, almost 40 pages. Is that less than 40 pages? We could do it. And then we would be done with it before. Oh, Monday, right. Yes, of course, Monday. I got mixed up on which day it was right here in my own head. I was thinking we could get through it before Erica's new shift, but as Erica just said, the new shift starts on Monday, 2 days from now. So. Oh, I missed the Sharky saying, back to the convo between Thorin and Bard. I must say that the Peter Jackson film certainly did a weird thing with it. I do not remember that. Farmos also does not remember. Was the Elf King a lot more involved? Or you could do a short stream. Yes, I could do a short stream on Monday and then finish the book on Friday. So why don't we do that? We'll do a shorter one. We'll just do like one chapter on Monday, and then we'll get to the end of it on next Friday's stream. I think that's a better idea. Sharky say maybe there was an initial convo, a few spoofs of it too. You'll Facebook post it. Okay. I should probably make like a Facebook group for this that we can post things in and whatnot. I think that would be a good idea. Although I know Erica doesn't use Facebook. Yeah, so that's I think what we'll do. We'll do a little bit of a shorter stream on Monday, and then we'll plan to get through and finish the book on Friday, and I think that'll be exciting. I don't know what we should do to celebrate. I feel like I should do something to celebrate making it through the entirety of The Hobbit with you guys. Robakio likes that. Fridays work better for him too. Okay, cool. We'll do that then. We can watch me eat breakfast, do a Hobbit celebration. I'll just have a feast. We'll make this into one of those eating streams. A chocolate gold hoard. Oh boy. There was something I read about quite a while back where some people watched, I think it was the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but they planned it out so that they had food matching anytime somebody was eating something on the films. So, you know, when they had lambus bread, they would have their own like crackers or something like that, and when they were drinking, they had drinks to match, and you know, meats back on the menu, things like that. Cola ball pearls, ring pops, yes, whatever candy treasure I can assemble. I don't know if I could handle that much sugar at once. Sharky say food pairings with movies is your dream. That's honestly, it would be really fun, I think. And there's, you know, you could do that with things other than the Lord of the Rings, but I feel it's very Hobbitish to do it with Lord of the Rings. Roakio remembers an old dinner and a movie thing on TV ages ago. Oh, I have vague memories of something like that where they like gave you like the recipe to make before or something, or did they show you how to do it in between like commercial breaks? I remember something like that. And Farmhouse can come F up my plate. Wait, what? What? Erica, I don't understand. It's the right time of year to finish it. That's true. This is definitely the right time of year to be getting to this part of this book. Robot Kyo doesn't really remember the specifics, but something like that. Sharky say there was something about the 22nd of September that had to do with Lord of the Rings of the Hobbit. Second guessing yourself as to what it was. Well, I wonder if there is a date that coincides with Thrain's Day or whatever it was called. The one where the thrush knocked on the stone. Because they do spell out what specifically that was, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if it had to do with that day. Erica is not coming to Hannibal movie night. Me neither. That's not my thing. Or Indiana Jones. Might be Bilbo's birthday. It's connected. Oh, I see. Well, people come mess up my house. To be fair, the dwarves came and ate all his food, but they left it very nice and tidy. They sang a song about wrecking all his things, but in the process, they actually washed the dishes and put things away nicely. Farmo says, yep, September 22nd is Bilbo's birthday. I see. Good call. We're getting real close to that, aren't we? It is September 17th. And Frodo's, but I don't think he's been born yet. That's not right, is it? Well, let's see. If he's not born yet, he probably is soon, because Bilbo was in his 50s at the beginning of this adventure, right? And Frodo is in his 50s, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, around the time of Bilbo's 111th birthday. It's close. So maybe Frodo will be born soon. The 22nd is a Wednesday. So, I mean, if everybody wanted to do a Wednesday stream, we could do a Bilbo's birthday, finish the Hobbits stream if we wanted. That could be fun. We haven't done a Wednesday stream for a while, but if everyone's available, I could definitely do that. I am free on that day. It would be very fitting. What's everyone think? Is anyone not available on the 22nd for a Bilbo's birthday party? Robot Kyo could do Wednesday as long as he knows in advance. All right, well, consider this letting you know in advance. Sharky's going to be available. All right, I think we should do it then. I think we should do Bilbo's birthday, finish The Hobbit. So we'll do a Monday stream as normal. We'll just do like one chapter. And then everybody can wear party hats and we'll celebrate Bilbo's birthday on Wednesday the 22nd. Farmo says Bilbo was 50 and Frodo was 51, and there were 60 years in between. So Frodo has a bit to go before he's born. Okay, so yeah, that holds up. About 9 years from where we're at, roughly, until Frodo is born. Erica says, Bill birthday. Bill birthday, I think. Bill birthday. All right, that's fun. That works out quite nicely. It's funny that that's lined up like this, where we're just reaching the end of the book, just in time for Bilbo's birthday. I'm glad you guys figured that out. All right, well, it is 23 past 8 p.m., so I think it's probably a good time to wrap this up. We've talked a little more than usual, but this was a fun chapter, and it's good seeing everyone here. And won't see Erica on Monday, but I'll see the rest of you hopefully, and then we'll celebrate the end of the book next Wednesday. So think about what you want to do for Bilbo's birthday party. All right. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Cake. That's what Bilbo would want, is cake, that's for sure. Or cakes, plural. Many cakes. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hope that you can have a good time despite the rain, or, maybe even because of the rain. Good night.